Hey Fitheads, today we hang out with Maysa Hannawi. She has her doctorate in physical therapy and she has like a very holistic overall view of fitness, but also like talks some serious CrossFit with us. It was pretty cool.
It seems like she has. I- It seems like she does CrossFit, but she's smart. Does that make sense?
What?
Like a lot of what she talked about was like, yeah, we should think about how much we're working out this muscle or this exercise, this group or whatever. Like, she definitely looks at stuff with a intelligent perspective, I think, which is rare.
Right. Yeah, and talked about more variety and different types of movements versus just like getting really sucked in and being competitive.
Welcome to Total Fitheads.
Serious fitness for not so serious people.
Hi Maysa, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, this is awesome. I see you do pull-ups right there. Is that a pull-up bar right behind you?
No, you're not the first person who said that. It's a barn door, so it's just the top of it.
Okay.
But I do have a pull-up bar downstairs, so
Prove it.
no, we're good. It's fine.
You can prove it just by flexing, right? There must be a pull-up bar close because she looks like that.
Pull-ups are actually my favorite movement in CrossFit.
I saw this on your bio. And you also included burpees.
Yeah, I'm weird. I like pull-ups and burpees. It's fun.
Is there
I think I'm short and I'm close to the ground, so it's just like not a big distance is my theory.
that it's easier for you? Well, like snatching too, right? Or any sort of like ollie is easier for shorter people, isn't that right? Am I making that up?
I'm the anomaly then, because snatching is my worst movement ever.
Yeah. And is it like, I mean, it's hard for everyone, but like it's your worst so you don't like it, or like you enjoy working on your weakness?
I'm bad at it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy working on it. I do work on it, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah, of course. Totally makes
If it
sense.
makes you feel any better, I can do zero pounds of snatch. My shoulder, I'm not flexible enough, so I'm holding it like in front of me like that.
It sounds like you need a one-on-one coach.
Does anyone have a website?
Yeah, he has like you would work with him directly, just like help with overhead flexibility on that, right?
Yeah. How
long does it take to get flexible? I've asked a lot of people. Everyone gives me different answers. It sounds like, personally, the answer is infinity days, and you'll never get flexible, and you'll just die as a stiff boxed person.
That's very inaccurate. It definitely depends on what's causing the lack of range of motion, whether it's CNS related, whether it's just movement patterns, positioning, different things. If it's like a structural limitation, which is very rare, like you were born that way or you had some sort of stroke or neurological thing that created that, it can take longer / not change depending, but that's usually not the case. It's usually just a poor movement pattern that's been reinforced over time, I would assume, but we can evaluate you and figure out what's going on.
Different answer than you've gotten in the past, Max.
Every other answer is like, stop being a wuss, just start stretching.
But I'm trying. Sounds like a good answer.
It sounds like a great answer.
You have a loud cat, Max. What is going on?
He's being a little twit.
Not getting enough attention.
Right.
Well, hopefully the cat will play the dog. Whatever. I always assume with people who have like multiple children, like the first one would just start raising the second one and so on and so forth. So that's what I was planning with the dog, but they tend to not get along too well. Shocker, cats and dogs, am I right?
I have a cat and dog.
And do they love each other?
My dog loves my cat. My cat tolerates my dog.
Tolerates, yeah.
Huh. Sounds different than what I've discovered from watching cartoons. Seems like they...
My cat's just like queen of the world, and she's just like, you're taking up space in my house.
So when you're doing push-ups and planks and stuff, does your cat like jump on your back and just stand there?
I never have my cat in the gym with me.
Oh.
My dog, though, is always in the gym with me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always in the way of everything, for sure.
We were talking about this before we started recording. Your dog is named after a CrossFit brand.
Yes, my dog is named Rogue.
That's
He's a
some
true dog,
dedication to
for sure.
CrossFit right there.
Well, when he was new, like when I first got him, I coached a lot of CrossFit. So he would come to the gym all the time. So it was like a gym dog.
Cute. Love it. So actually we dove right in, but like give us some background for the fit head so they know like your athlete background as well as your like coaching education background.
For sure. So I actually grew up overseas in Dubai my whole life.
I noticed your accent.
Are you being sarcastic?
Yeah.
I've lived in the States for a long time. Also, Dubai is like 85% international, so everyone speaks English. But grew up there, came to the States for college. All throughout high school, as a long distance runner was my background. I always joke I came to college and I weighed 99 pounds. I was tiny when I came. I now weigh probably 30 pounds more than that with CrossFit. But stayed running in college, and then I picked up competitive ultimate frisbee when I was our team at NC State was pretty good. We went to nationals, but tore my ACL at sectionals on the way to nationals. So blew out ACL, MCL, meniscus, was out for the count, had a pretty rough knee injury. And at the time I was a science biology major, didn't really know what I wanted to do, was working for the NC State football team as a student trainer, started going through rehab myself and was like, wait, this is kind of cool. Combine science, rehab, sports, what I'm into. So got interested in physical therapy through that, started shadowing some at the clinic that I was rehabbing at, and applied for PT school, moved to Charleston for PT school. When I was on the comeback from ACL surgery, I couldn't run or play frisbee, so I started working out in the gym. And I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I've never lifted weights in my life. And one of my friends was a CrossFit coach, and I was very anti-CrossFit. I was like, you're exercising for time. This is so stupid. And then I tried it. And then I fell in love with it and chugged the Kool-Aid like everyone does. Coached CrossFit pretty much all throughout PT school. Started a cash-based clinic based out of CrossFit gyms. That's where In the Box comes from, because CrossFit gyms are called In the Box. So I would go to different CrossFit gyms, set up a table on the gym floor and treat CrossFit athletes out of the gym. Also started coaching one-on-one with Active Life, programming to get people out of pain. With COVID, went more to the online world. I still see clients in gyms and in homes, but a lot more online programming. But yeah, that's kind of my background.
Very cool. So you're just like take a table to gyms. Was it recurring, or was it more like you're trying to get to as many places as possible? And
I started with 7 gyms, which was a huge mistake. I learned very quickly, way too many locations. When I was in PT school, I coached at 3 different gyms. So I already kind of had a base. I had competed a lot locally, knew a lot of the CrossFit community in the area. So just had ins in a lot of gyms. I eventually dwindled it down to like 3 locations I was at, and then 1 primary location when I had a good patient base that would kind of come to me. That was closed on and off with COVID. So
interesting. What's the most common thing you find when you just bring a table to CrossFit people? They all have the same issues?
A lot of overuse, I think. There's not a specific, a lot of people have shoulders and knee pain with high volume gymnastics and high volume squatting, which is kind of the detriment of a lot of poorly programmed CrossFit programs. I tried to only be in gyms that I believed were coaching really well and doing really good programming. So staying along the lines of what I preached and what I believed in. I think what happens with CrossFit is people get into it, and they get into it really fast and really hard because they become obsessed with it. It's like a drug. It's addicting. It's fun. You have the community, and they miss a lot of the foundational pieces of CrossFit. So skipping a lot of steps and then hurting, overuse, doing higher volume gymnastics than their body's ready for, or that has the stability to do, or squatting or deadlifting or cleaning more than they should.
Yeah, it seems common.
That's always been, that's a much more eloquent way of putting how I've always seen a lot of CrossFit gyms or boxes.
How would you put it?
People love it. They do it too hard, too fast. They always get hurt. I remember when I started I was at formal for about a year, and our coaches didn't tell us how to do stuff. He'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do cleans today, go for it, and I'm like, I know how to do this. I've been coached in this, and I had a strength coach, and I went to college athlete, blah 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 blah. But like that lady doesn't, and that guy has no idea what he's doing, and no one's stopping anyone to be like correcting form, I guess. They're just like,
For sure.
well, clock's ticking. You got to keep going. Got to beat max. You know what I mean?
I think that's the difference between a good gym and a bad gym. I've worked out of a lot of gyms and seen a variety. I think people see that and then think CrossFit is this horrible thing, but that's not CrossFit. Like if you go to a good gym where they have foundations, where they're breaking things down. And it took me a while to figure that out. Like you, the first gym I went to taught me how to snatch on the fly in middle of class. And that's probably why I hate snatching, because I had horrible patterns. And it was like a 21-15-9 workout of snatches. And they were like, here is a bar and this is what you do. And I was like, okay, cool. And now I'm terrible at snatching because I've built really terrible habits and have had to go back and kind of revamp that. But I now work out of my garage gym, but the last CrossFit gym I was at had phenomenal coaching, really good thought out programming, broke down everything, and it's worlds apart. I think that's how CrossFit truly should be. But unfortunately with the model, you can kind of do whatever you want with your gym. So I think when I was learning to handstand walk, that was something I really wanted to be able to do. I was very afraid of it. Was coming off ACL surgery. I was like, I'm gonna fall and tear my ACL. And one of the coaches I had really early on was like, kick up, I'll spot you. And I kicked up and he pushed me over and I fell and he was like, see, you didn't get hurt. You're fine. And I was like, what? And I was like, so this is how this is going to go, which like horrible coaching, really good coaching. I've seen both ends of it. So I think it's not like the methodology that's wrong. It's kind of sometimes the way people approach it and the gyms are going to that don't limit what you're able to do at certain stages.
I think they're like two separate elements that make a good CrossFit gym, and we kind of touched on both of them, but I want to separate them out. So foundational and like helping people actually do the movements correctly, but also the actual programming and not just like squats and wall balls and box jumps and all of the same like movements over and over again and never getting any rest, which I think is hard to do, right? You have your L1, as do I, and I feel wholly unqualified to actually program correctly so that people will work the right muscle groups and be able to rest.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the L1, I think it's a phenomenal seminar. It's run really, really well. It's a really cool intro. It does not make you a CrossFit coach by any means.
But
it does. But
legal means you are a CrossFit coach.
Yeah, I have my physical therapy degree, and I think that's where I've learned a lot. And then also I've worked in a ton of gyms over the last 10 years. So experience has helped a ton. The last gym I worked at had a mentor program, and in order to coach for them, you had to have 200 hours of mentorship, which with their head coach. And I think that's what should exist, because you don't just take an L1 and be like, yeah, I can teach you how to snatch. That's not a thing. But again, that's just what separates good and bad gyms. And I think, programming is a whole other thing. Being a coach and being able to program are two very different things. Cycling out movements, there's a whole science behind that, especially with CrossFit where there's so many different things. And I'd like to tell my clients, a thruster, a clean, an overhead squat, a pistol, a box jumps, those are all squats. So even if you're not back squatting 5 days in a row, you could still unintentionally be squatting 5 days in a row if it's not programmed well. So I think a lot of good gyms outsource their programming, because that's you can't be a full-time coach and also be programming. It's just they're two different jobs.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. It seems easier to wrap your head around a bodybuilding split, but because like you said, there's so many movements and it's so total body for everything, even thrusters, that's overhead, right? So if you did shoulders yesterday, what are you doing? Thrusters on your squat day is still overhead again.
Yeah, it takes a lot of breakdown and cycling to figure out how to program CrossFit.
Yeah. Well, so what's your like rest and recovery strategy? Do you do deload? Do you do whole weeks off? Like, and what do you recommend to your clients?
So for sure, I would prefer if people would have 2 full rest days. It's very hard to get people to take 2 full rest days in the CrossFit world, as I'm sure you know, because more is always better, right? I generally do like Sundays a full rest day, and then Thursday, or depending on people's schedule, one day midweek is like an active recovery where they're doing just a longer steady state, some type of cardio, usually like machine work that's not super taxing. I was actually just talking to Christine about this morning. I like to front load like high skill gymnastics and high skill Oli lifts, so like snatching, muscle ups, chest bars at the beginning of the week when people are fresh coming off a rest day. I know a lot of programs like to back squat. I think if you back squat heavy at the beginning of the week, you trash the rest of your week. So I like to load my like heavy lifting or Oli lifts more towards the end of the week, like a lifting day. I have all my functional fitnessers doing some like functional bodybuilding day where it's not a Metcon. They're not like a push-pull day. I think CrossFit is super inflammatory to your system, and doing that like 6 days a week is not good. Like you can't just Metcon every day. So that's a little bit of the methodology. I don't know if that really answered your question.
No, yeah, that's super insightful. And so you're fitting in like a bodybuilding day within like CrossFit programming, and you don't feel like that's somehow harmful to either bodybuilding or whatever they are focusing on. Like you can mix those kinds of things on separate days.
For sure. I think CrossFitters need some isolated work and functional bodybuilding, and I add in some like athlete stuff, so like depth jumps, lateral movements, just some explosive power things that we're not doing. I mean, if you look at a typical CrossFit program, not all, there's obviously like very well programmed CrossFit out there or functional fitness. There's very little unilateral or single leg movements. There's very little side to side movements, and there's very little like athlete work, like being explosive, cutting, all those. And those are all things that are gonna keep your joints healthy. CrossFitters are like, oh, we don't do isolated work like bicep curls, but how do you keep your elbows and your shoulders and your wrists and your knees healthy? You have to have some sort of lower intensity joint specific things. And that's obviously going to depend on the athlete. Like if they have an overhead weakness, their bodybuilding is going to focus more around upper body, or if they have a knee weakness or pain, it's going to focus around lower body. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing with programming for CrossFitters is educating that like more is not better.
Well, it's so interesting because like the general like fitness education stuff is more like trying to motivate people and getting them to get to the gym, but like with this subset of working out, all these CrossFitters are like going overboard and actually have to be like pull the reins on them.
But I think like that probably happens. I'm not big in the bodybuilding powerlifting world. I don't like coach that a ton, but I'm sure it happens too. People get into physique or bodybuilding and it's just like an addiction. They go in way too deep and there's not a lot of moderation in their training.
Yeah.
Or diversity.
Yeah.
I feel like people are so entrained to one track, and I'm a CrossFitter. So I only do CrossFit. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm a distance runner. I'm a lunatic. Like it's people like get into their tracks and then they just get stuck there. It seems like you're taking CrossFit as like a base, and then you're hand picking other things that are really.
I mean, but really, what is a CrossFit? It's just working out. Like people are so like, yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, what is running, jumping? All those are all part of CrossFit. I mean, it was really interesting to see with COVID too. A lot of people who I was programming for, who had their gym shut down, didn't have access to barbells, all those things, like were able to maintain pretty much all of their fitness, mobility, flexibility, the way they move, that it was a really easy transition back to the gym. And I was like, yeah, you don't need to like barbell lift 6 days a week to be good at barbell lifting. Like there's so many facets of fitness we can work on and still maintain your base level of strength. So I think that was actually good for a lot of people to see, like, you don't have to do high volume muscle ups all the time to be able to maintain your muscle ups. Like maybe you just need to work on your shoulders a little bit and not be in pain.
Yeah, Max has been doing TRX workouts and then just got his first muscle up. So
First muscle up of my life was last
Congratulations.
week. It was spectacular. I gotta tell you.
It's a
I
really
saw
good-
footage.
I did it at the playground.
Oh, those are like slick bars too.
And then I looked around and nobody was there. And I was like, okay.
But you got it on video, so it counts.
That's true. That's true. It 100% counts.
It's
I
so
found
fun.
I found
Oh,
it was
go
more
ahead.
technique than anything. I don't feel a lot stronger than I've ever been, but that was the first one I've ever done. I found it was technique-y. Are you do you teach gymnastic technique as like, is that like an eye opener for a lot of people, like it was for me?
Yeah, I think with a muscle up, a lot of people have the strength to do it, and then once they get one, it's like it clicks. They're like, oh, I know how to throw myself over the bar correctly now.
Mhm.
But see, some of it's technique. I think with women a lot, or females, you see like a lack of strength. Men tend to have better push pull strength than women, or they get it quicker. Like you'll see, very rarely do I see women go into the CrossFit gym and on their like first or second attempt get a muscle up, but you'll see guys who have done like bench press and curls and just have the strength to muscle their way up. I think if you want to string a lot together, technique comes in a ton, because you can only kind of muscle your way up for.
So it's a technique up.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you do on rings too?
Me or Max?
No,
I've only done one. How could I,
Oh, yeah, I can do muscle.
I'm working on a ring one right now. I have yet to even do a bar one, but that's just because I would hit my head on the ceiling of my garage. That's the only reason I can't do it. But yeah, it's interesting learning the technique of that and like the false grip. And I didn't even know that you have to turn your hands out, like just like little things like that, right? Oh yeah, you're I got all
beat up.
Beat up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think bar is easier. I think it's more stable. If you are someone who is more bottom heavy, rings sometimes are easier because you can get a bigger kit going, is what I've been told. I definitely got bar before rings. Rings are also like I think you need a little more shoulder stability, because a lot more things can go wrong on rings than can on a bar.
Yeah, in the L1 course I took, which supposedly would be the same as yours, they said that you should get a strict muscle up before you ever do kipping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I'm gonna not listen to that, but but it makes sense. I get what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, like in most gyms, they don't allow you, if it's a decent gym, to even attempt a bar muscle up until you can do like a certain amount of strict pull-ups, a certain amount of strict dips, because you just want to make sure that your shoulders have the capacity to do that before you're like adding a bunch of momentum and just hoping for the best when you catch over the bar.
Great, I'll just hit you up whenever things go south and you can help me rehab my shoulders.
I bet you could do a strict muscle up.
Okay, well, we're gonna.
A lot of it is just getting comfort with false grip.
Yeah. So, yeah, like what I'm saying, like I'll hit you up when I'm injured, or do you work with people that are not like coming back from some screw up? Like,
yeah, so I have obviously my background. I have my doctorate in physical therapy, so I started working with people who are in pain. I realized like being in functional fitness settings, I've programmed for gyms before. Like I like the performance side of it a lot more. I think I like to blend the gap. I think we missed the ball by saying like, if you're in pain, you have to see a PT. And if you're not in pain, you need to see a coach. Like it's all, I mean, what is rehab? It's smart training. Like if you train better, you're not going to be in pain. If you are in pain, you can still work out around it while you're fixing that. So it's kind of one and the same. I prefer working with people kind of coming off of pain into performance, because I think that's like the best time when we're like, people are starting to feel good. They're going to go do the stupid things they did in the first place that made them feel bad. And I'm like, let's actually change the way you train, get you fitter and feeling better. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I just want to get back to where I was, which is like the most detrimental thing. Where you were is what got you in the place you are at now. So kind of a combination of the two. I like the performance side of PT more than the like post-op clinical side.
Okay, interesting. And you also do stuff like recovery things, like soft tissue work.
Yeah, so I do dry needling and cupping and manual.
What?
I'm a physical therapist.
Okay, but what is dry needling even?
So essentially, if you, for example, were coming to me and had shoulder pain, and you wanted some, I like to reiterate that anything kind of hands-on is usually temporary relief. It's not going to create long-lasting change like people like to say it will. But we use small needles that are very similar to acupuncture needles and put them in the areas where you're feeling tender, where there's quote unquote trigger points. And I attach my needles to e-stem, so it clips on and there's electrical stimulation and it pulses and makes your muscle twitch. If you've ever seen like e-stem, it's like e-stem on the needles. The idea behind it is we're essentially tricking your nervous system in the most rudimentary way. If you fell and scraped your knees and then I kicked you in the balls, you'd probably forget about your knee hurting. Like your brain can only take so many stimulus at one time. What happens when you get like chronic shoulder pain or chronic back pain, your body starts going into a threat mode. So every time you, like people who have back pain when they bend over, there's nothing inherently wrong with bending over. That's their mind saying like, this is going to hurt, tighten up, don't move. If we can kind of break up that threat response, be like, this muscle can contract, it's fine, there's no pain, then you might experience some like temporary pain relief. Then you can go do exercises, strengthening, loading, mobility. That's going to create a more long lasting change. So you're kind of just reinforcing that this is okay, this can move, we can load it, can reduce pain.
Whoa, interesting. So that's like
That's a lot.
tens?
Sorry.
No. Is that the same thing as like tens and that kind of stem or whatever?
Yeah,
like,
it's like that, but you hook it up to the needles. So it's
I've never heard
more invasive.
Yeah. I've not heard it described like that, but the whole like confusing your muscle and body thing is super interesting.
I think some people try to preach that it breaks up tissue and changes composition, but I don't personally, and based on research, like nothing you do in 5 minutes is going to create a long lasting change. That's logically doesn't make sense. I always say like, if you want to add 5 pounds to your back squat and you back squatted once, you're probably not going to change your back squat. It might, like, you're on the way, but you got to do a bunch of other things. So all the hands-on manual dry needling, cupping, soft tissue work is for temporary pain relief. And then you want to follow it up with loading exercise to create long lasting results.
Interesting. I don't find that cupping is pain relief. It's pain causing. What the heck?
Well, you might have had an aggressive cupper.
Yeah, I'll show you. My cupper is actually here. If you could just. This is an electronic U.
Oh, that's an aggressive cup.
Yeah. So it like sucks. Here, look. You can see it like suck my hand in. This is.
That I just have like
a
manual suction gun. That's a whole other level.
Well, this is so that I can. Oh, can you cup yourself?
I mean, if I can reach it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I guess it's
cupping. Right.
Well,
but yeah, I think that cups just simulate a deep tissue massage.
Yeah. Okay. And how do you feel like of what people say about if it's darker, then that means there was like more like problem there? Is that true?
I think that's BS. I think some people it's like, why do you burn a little bit more in the sun? Like, is some people's skin just react differently to things? Yeah, I think that is just kind of like a gimmick. People saw Michael Phelps with a bunch of circles at the Olympics and they're like, oh, I want to look cool. If I leave the cups on long enough, it'll bruise on anyone. I don't think that's like indicative of anything. Typically I use manual when someone comes to me in a lot of pain, that it's limiting them from even beginning to do the movements they need to do to get out of pain. So I just want to calm down their nervous system, calm down some of that threat response, and then go do things that actually create change.
Okay. So cupping is not going to solve it for
twist
me.
on it. It's like, I mean, this is obviously a terrible, but it's like when they say, certain supplements and certain steroids and stuff like that, that steroids don't make you big. Steroids allow you to keep working out. So it's sort of, obviously I'm not comparing these two things.
No, I get what you're saying.
You heard it here, folks. Cupping is steroids.
Especially when you have the electronic button thing.
Yeah, that was insane. Does it also vacuum your floor?
Love it.
But yeah, I think it's just like a tool for pain relief. I think there's a lot of science behind it, but you can just look at it logically. Does it make sense that you've been in pain for how long and something someone does in 5 to 10 minutes is going to magically cure you? Like, that's not how things work.
The chiropractor industry is in shambles right now.
But I know a ton of great chiropractors that do hands-on work, but follow it up with exercises. So it just depends on, I have no problem with manual. It's the narrative that goes along with it.
Interesting. Okay. Oh, when we were talking, I meant to ask about this when we were talking about how you add in explosive and like lateral movements.
Mhm.
I have a feeling that you want to convince me I should be using a landmine. Is this true or not?
That's so funny. I love landmines. I think it's a great tool for, first of all, it's just like a plane we don't typically load. Second of all, if you're someone who has issues overhead or is working on any type of shoulder flexibility or mobility, it's a good way to keep loading without irritating the shoulder. So sometimes pressing overhead is really irritating. We're working on your shoulder stability and mobility. We don't want to load it up, but you still want to maintain some shoulder strength. Landmine's a great way to do that. You can use it in so many ways to be explosive, to do tempo. You can set it up at home with a plate and a barbell. You don't have to have a landmine rig. So I like using it. It's just also a, like, we don't load for pressing that plane very much. So yeah, I love landmines.
And like twisting. I feel like there's no twisty happening
No
in
rotation
CrossFit.
CrossFit.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
You gotta straighten those elbows out though.
Well, I'm right in front of my laptop. I'm not
Getting
Yeah.
called out on your form.
just like punched through the screen.
Yeah, CrossFit doesn't have a lot of rotation, like maybe box jump overs. And that's, I think that's also, so CrossFit makes you pretty fit all around, and it gives you the ability, or functional fitness in general, to go do all of these things. But okay, I feel fit. I can go play pickup soccer or pick up basketball, but then I have never cut. My knees are not trained in that position at all to do anything lateral, but I have the fitness and the aerobic capacities. So I'm like, oh, I'm totally fine, but you haven't conditioned your joints to do those motions. So, I mean, I think you always want a well-rounded fitness program. You don't want to be leaving out any movement or plane. So trying to include some of that athletic stuff. And it's, I mean, it's enjoyable. It's fun. People love explosive power, jumping. It translates well to lifting.
Yeah. Yeah, the best exercise is the one that you're not doing.
I like that. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that seems like a very CrossFit sense too, that like you want to be well-rounded
For sure.
and an overall athlete versus like if you are a power lifter and all you ever want to do is move those 3 lifts up, then that's a little different. You don't want,
it depends obviously on your goals. Like if you're going to compete in powerlifting, you're probably going to have to eliminate some of those things. But for longevity, any sport you're competing in, you want to condition your joints in all planes. So they're not, I mean, even for powerlifting, it's pretty linear, but you still want to keep your shoulders and knees and elbows healthy to be doing lateral movements, to be working in different planes.
Right. So I would love to get your full review of this year's Open. Did you do them?
I did do the Open, yes.
I tried to get Max to do it with me. He declined.
Well, all I have is a TRX, and that's not sponsored yet. So
You mean you didn't want to scuff your walls with wall walks?
Oh yeah, that one you could have done that, Max. It was wall walks and oh, do you have a jump rope? You do, because I gave you one. Ha.
See, you had no excuses.
I can't do double unders because I've never done them before.
Did you do all the workouts?
I did. I had to scale the last one. I don't know. It's they're this. I mean, I feel like I don't have good insights on this. I've only done the past couple of years,
Okay.
but they were just as painful as always.
Yeah, open workouts are always deceivingly painful. So the first one, wall walks and dubs. I don't like the idea of wall walks for time. I think that they are a progression and a strength movement to like teach you to get inverted. I did it. I flopped to the ground every time. It was for time. That's not like a great thing to train. Like if you pass this line, you can just like my stomach was literally bruised
Wow.
from
But
just
you got a
hitting.
great time.
Sure. Yeah. Is that the goal? I mean, kind of, but
It is.
for
It's
for
very
someone
specifically
who's,
the goal.
I mean, for someone who's not used to being inverted, like doing that really fast, just dropping. It was a lot of volume of wall walks. It was also an extremely high volume of double unders. Like for people completing that, it was like, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 double unders in that workout. And people are doing the open workouts 2 to 3 times in a weekend.
I did it twice, and I'm not the type of
Yeah.
person to be like, well, I need to do that better. But I got sucked in.
I mean, that's like a volume of jumping that the average Gen Pop, which is who the open is targeting for the most part, doesn't really need to be jumping that much. I don't think. It was interesting. I get the wall walk was like, let more people do it, but at the same time, I mean, wall walks are getting inverted. That's not like a super easy low entry movement for anyone. Like
It's not handstand push-ups, because I would have had to scale that. You wanted it to be handstand push-ups.
no, I actually don't like handstand. I don't really like. I can do them, but I don't enjoy them. But yeah, it was just also I get the idea behind it. I didn't love wall walks for time, but it is what it is. What was the second one?
Snatching and box jump overs.
Oh,
or burpee box jump overs. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one was a repeat from 2017.
Did you do better?
Much, because in 2017 I had never done a dumbbell snatch in my life because dumbbells were not a thing in CrossFit. So that workout introduced dumbbells into CrossFit.
Oh, wow. Is it just because Rogue wanted to sell whole racks to every gym?
Yeah, it's literally like before the open was like, everyone needs to get dumbbells. And it was a genius thing because all these gyms bought dumbbells. But like in the long run, it's really good because dumbbells are work unilateral strength, expose a lot of weaknesses. I like it. In 2017, nobody had done a dumbbell snatch, and it was 150 burpee box jump overs and 75 dumbbell snatches. Like I know multiple people who got rhabdo from their back because that's flexion extension on. I remember in 2017, I did that workout RX because my coach, the same one who pushed me over in a handstand, was like, if you do 1 rep RX, you beat everyone scaled. And I was like, duh, that's how to do it.
Oh, that's how it works.
Horrifying when I think of it. I've just changed a lot since 2017. So I literally remember I went into the gym and I like tried a couple, which a 35-pound dumbbell is pretty heavy if you've never done a dumbbell snatch. Didn't know how to cycle them, so it was like rebopping every rep. So whatever, I finished it barely, and I did not work out until the following open workout 7 days later because I was like, I probably had like I was nauseous. I actually had a professor in PT school at the time that did it and canceled class the next day because he couldn't. It was horrifying. And everyone was, because no one had ever, and it's just a combination of a lot of flexion extension. So this time I was like, all right, I've done so many dumbbell snatches. I was still like wrecked for like 4 or 5 days. Like I was pretty sore. It was just a rough combination, but I think it was much better now because people have trained that movement at that, like that many dumbbell snatches is something that happens on a regular basis in CrossFit. So I love repeat workouts in the open. I think that's always super cool. Like I think I took 2.5 minutes off my time from
nice.
So
yeah, that's what I miss in CrossFit too. Like in bodybuilding, you do the same thing every day, or powerlifting, you watch your numbers go up on the same lifts. In CrossFit, it's like, nope, it's different this time. Who knows how well you did? Because now we're changing it up tomorrow.
Yeah, that's why the open is so great because they usually have a repeat workout. The last workout, like selfishly, I liked because I like gymnastics, but from a programming standpoint, I was like, this is so much volume.
Okay, so wait, to fill in the fit heads, it was thrusters.
It was 15 thrusters, 30 toes to bar, 15 front squats. Then you had like a mandatory rest, then 15 thrusters, 30 chest to bar, 15 front squats, rest, 15 thrusters, 30 muscle ups, 15 front squats. I like gymnastics, so it was fun. And then it was a max lift after, which
I forgot. There was 2 workouts in a row.
Yeah, it was like a max complex after you had shot your shoulders, shot your hips, shot your quads, go lift as much as you can because CrossFit loves to do that. I thought it was fun. I think it was the one higher level one that separated people to go into the quarterfinals. I like this whole like mandatory rest thing that they've started putting in because it forces people to do intervals, recover. If you're a lower level fitness, it gives you a minute to recover. If you're higher level, it just forces you to go faster because you have time to rest. Max Complex is always going to be in the open in some form to favor the barbell athlete, which is cool. I think it exposed a lot of people because it was a really light barbell. So everyone was like, you're going to be totally fine on your gymnastics, but 15 thrusters, 15 front squats, 3 times in a row add up and your kip, like my hips were gone for my kip. I was like, what's happening? But it was a fun one.
Yeah, it was cool.
I think it being 3 weeks is way better. 5 weeks is a long time for the open.
Yeah. Did they say anything about why they did that?
I think it's because they changed to have like quarterfinals, semifinals. So there's a lot more stages. Also, like I haven't owned a gym, but I've worked in a lot of gyms, and like working and owning a gym, the open is like very difficult. You have to like change your whole class schedule. You have to have judges. You have to have setups. You have to stay really late, like 2 days a week. Like it's just really taxing on gyms that more and more gyms, I think, were just like not participating in it because it was really difficult. So 3 weeks is a little more manageable.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also to fill the fitheads in, they're familiar with T on my channel. Maysa trains T and is helping her with her shoulder. And you forced her to scale the second workout. She wasn't allowed to do 35 pounds.
Yeah, but I made her do a pretty rough version of it.
Yeah.
You crushed it though. Yeah. I mean, that was if you have shoulder issues, you probably don't need to do 75 heavy dumbbell snatches. Like weighing I get it. Like I have some athletes that are like, I'm going to do the open no matter what. And we do damage control. And that's how it works. It just depends on like what your goals are. If you're not trying to qualify for quarterfinals, like, is it really worth setting you back weeks or a month for one workout? Just depends on the person, what their goals are.
But shouldn't everyone's goal kind of be don't get hurt?
One would think. But I think it depends. I mean, like if that's your life and you're competing to make money off of it, like at that point, I try to say, people see, the CrossFit games and they're like, this is unhealthy. And I'm like, well, that's sport. Like sport isn't for health. We don't tell football players to like, be careful when you get tackled. Like, of course that's not healthy, but that's their job. So, I mean, CrossFitters who are trying to qualify for the games are 100% sacrificing health. Like they're going to push themselves beyond what they should because they have to compete. Their goal is to be on a podium, not to be healthy. That's not the average person's goal. Obviously you want some sense of longevity with an athlete, but there's no balance when you're trying to win. Like it doesn't, you're playing with fire a little bit. Like how close can we get to the line without crossing it?
Yeah.
I compare it to like if you ever been in a really bad car accident. I have, and it changed how I drive. I don't drive. I drive like an old man now because I don't want to get in another one of those. Same thing, like when people have had sort of serious injuries, I think it just people, not that it like changes how they train, but maybe they take it into account a little bit more. And
they're not as reckless maybe with their training. Yeah.
I know that I get in that mentality and I should be thinking for like long term. It's just really tough to be like, yeah, this is an overall health thing and it doesn't have to make me want to throw up.
Yeah, I think that's why it's, I think, so important to have a coach. Like I program for a bunch of people and I have a coach because you're biased towards yourself. And sometimes I need someone else to just tell me what to do, when to do it, how hard to push. Like there's different seasons. If I'm very overwhelmed with work, I can like chill on my intensity a little bit, but you can't make those decisions for yourself well. Like I program well for other people. I program horribly for myself.
And you certainly can't make them in the moment. You're like, I could do one more. And then that's the one that you're like, no, you can't, dude. You're shot.
Yeah.
So is your trainer remote too?
Okay. He actually lives where I live, but it's online programming.
Interesting. And you've been doing some online webinar stuff too.
Yeah, we recently through Active Life we're in the middle of a series of women in fitness, which is something I'm super passionate about. And our last one was on body image, which I think it was phenomenal. I left the webinar feeling like on top of the world. I think I've worked in a lot of gyms, and as I'm sure you know, like the fitness industry is definitely male dominated, way more male owned gyms. Most of the coaches I work with are men, and I've had really horrible experiences and really great experiences. I think there's both ends of that, but we just did this seminar on body image, and it's like 70% of women quit an exercise program in the first 3 months because they feel insecure going to a gym. There was so many like wild stories that have happened with the woman on that seminar. We're going to start releasing some clips from it, of things like man had said to them in the gym, coworkers, different things they've experienced. That's just like, I think it's tough being in this space. I'm sure you know, like with social media, it's just crazy. Like, I think it's a little bit different for women than men. Like the image you portray, how you get followers, all those things it's a very fine line between being educational and aesthetic. And it's just a tough space. So there isn't really a lot of open places to have conversations about that. So we've been trying to create that a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I'm absolutely screwed up. I want to muscle up for Instagram, not because like it'll be better for me or my body. Sure. No, I just want to look cool on the internet.
It's a thing for sure, which is just like a tear, even though we recognize it, it's like a horrible mindset to have. And I was saying, like, I have been lucky. I haven't really had any severe body image issues in my life, but even me, who I feel pretty comfortable and confident, when I started, I run social media for Active Life. I run their Instagram. When I started taking that over, in the back of my mind, I was like, if I missed a workout, like I'm representing a company that works out. This is really bad, which is just horrible. Like people have lives and jobs, and it's totally fine but those things cross your mind because we're constantly seeing very curated highlight reels of people's lives on Instagram. But yeah, there was like a study that we brought up in that webinar that they had a bunch of college women scroll for 10 minutes through feeds, and they like curated them, and feeds that had models and like shirtless photos and Instagram influencers versus feeds that had more like landscape and house. The people who saw the feeds with models reported like a way higher dissatisfaction with their own bodies compared to, and that's just like with 10 minutes of scrolling. And most people are spending significantly more than 10 minutes on Instagram. And if you're in the fitness world, like check our explore page based on the things we follow. It's entirely like
shirtless
influencer model Instagram trainer things. So it's just a very interesting, like social media can be so good and so bad.
Yeah. I mean, it feels more bad than good, but yes, I get how we can use this tool in the correct way. It's just no one's doing it.
Yeah, I think it's just like I talk to my clients about that all the time. Like be very cognizant of what you're following, how it's making you feel, what you're exposing yourself to, because all those little things add up. Like if you're following all these games athletes and you're like, I just want to look like that, that's probably unrealistic. That's their full-time job. Like you guys have lives and jobs and families that you have to take care of. And if that's all you're seeing and all you're comparing yourself to, it's going to have a negative effect on your body image. So just being aware of those things and how to break those cycles.
Well, I'm actually not asked about this often, but I feel like you might have a different answer being in the CrossFit world. Do you get a lot of women being like, I don't want to get too bulky?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. I think usually not people who have been in functional fitness for a while, but people who are starting out think that this is a thing that's going to happen. And like, I've been trying to get bulky my entire life. That's
what I say all the time.
Not a big person, but I'm like, do you know how much I eat? And I'm not bulky. I think, yeah, I was listening to one of you guys' podcasts. Can't remember which one. And someone said, I think a lot of people get into fitness or into programs for the wrong reasons. And it turns out to be the right reasons. Mm-hmm. I think that happens all the time. It's a hard conversation to convince people of at the beginning. Like, if you don't know me and you don't trust me and I tell you you're not going to get bulky, like, why are you going to believe me? But I think that's just trust and relationships over time. People start seeing the results they want. They start shifting to more performance goals over aesthetic goals. And then you kind of revisit that conversation once you've built that relationship, whether that's in person or online. Like, people aren't going to trust you off the bat. It's very rare. Like, you got to give them some sort of results, be there in some sort of situation, be talking about these things regularly. I think people miss the ball in trying to be like, that's not going to happen. Why would you think that? And no one's going to trust you the first time or second time they talk to you. Those conversations I try to have over time. And most people that start lifting, especially women, and get into that, quickly change their mindset around that and just want to lift more and don't really care about what it's going to make them look like, because they realize they're just going to look better and not bulky.
Yeah. How much
But for the record, how long does it take to get bulky? 5 hours, 6 hours?
At least 7. At least. I mean,
inefficient.
I think I've been trying to get bulky for 5 years. I was like, it's hard.
Especially as women, man. We talk about steroids often. I should just probably get on the train, grow an inch, get bulky.
That's how that works, right? Take the steroids 7 hours later.
Bingo.
I mean, not to say, by the way, that there's definitely body image and media issues with men too. I think it's just more common with females.
Sure.
And I think it's from an earlier age, and I think it's more general.
But it's also tough because it's more taboo to talk about with guys, right? Like, if you are going through something as a dude, like, there's no one to relate to, or I feel like at least as women we can all be like, hey, sucks, right? Guys have to like keep it to themselves.
Yeah,
am I right?
I do think there's a thing, like, if a dude takes his shirt off in the gym and isn't as ripped, no one thinks twice about it. But if a girl takes her shirt off, everyone's like, oh, like, do I need to have abs to do this? Like, I do think it's a little bit of a different culture.
No, that's fair. Yeah, and they normalize dad bod. Like, that's cool. That's acceptable. Where is that for women? Yeah.
Mom bod. Yeah, like, if a girl takes her shirt off, she's so brave. It's a weird, what a weird world.
Max, you want to ask the one question we ask everyone?
Important question, a little bit personal. How do you incorporate drinking into your fitness?
Wow. Personally, or like with other people? Just me?
Both. What do you tell your people you're training? What do you do?
I'm a very like everything in moderation person. I don't eliminate anything.
So binge drinking in moderation. Got it.
Once a month, binge drink.
That's totally what I recommend. No, I think I've always been like, if I try to cut something out entirely, I end up binging it. Like, it doesn't work. I'm not trying. I think if you're very aesthetic driven, you probably need to cut out alcohol. Like, if your goal is like, I need a 6-pack, that's going to be the first thing that's like the easiest, like low hanging fruit to eliminate. For the majority of people who are just like trying to be healthy, trying to look good, like, just don't binge drink. You can enjoy alcohol on a regular basis and be fine. I think it's when you're drinking like 5, 6, 7 or like drinks at a time, or having, wine or beer every single night, that's going to affect your performance. You can't recover as well. But I think it's all a give or take. Like, when clients come to me and they're like, I want a 6-pack, I'm like, okay, like, what do you want to give up? Because do you want to give up like enjoying nights out with your friends? Because that's going to happen. Like, in order to look that aesthetic that you want, there's things you're going to have to give up. But for the majority of people who want to look decent, feel good, perform well, like, they don't need to cut out alcohol. You can drink casually. Do you agree on that?
That's fair. I see the whoop on your arm though. That is the one thing that makes me be like, I'm never drinking again. You wake up and it's like
one sip and it's like in the red.
Yeah.
Like, it's watching. It's so crazy how that happens. I don't know how they know, but they know.
Yeah, it sucks knowing how wrecked you are. Instead of like going based on feel or whatever, it's like there's like this minute scientific details about really how poor you're performing because of what you did last night.
Yeah, I think I hate the idea of like you have to cut out something entirely. I don't think that's a sustainable thing in the long run, unless you're literally trying to go to the games. Then yeah, don't drink alcohol. But most of us are not. Most of my clients are not. I think it's just understanding like the implications. If you're gonna drink really heavy, you're gonna have some shit training days. That's okay if you want to do it. You just got to understand that then you can't expect to hit really heavy lifts and high intensity the next day and stay super healthy. So it's just adjusting for those things. But I mean, we work around that all the time. I have clients that are like, I'm going to go drink on Friday. And I'm like, all right, we're going to make Saturday your recovery day. That's okay.
They tell you ahead of time, they like trust you enough to say that versus, hey, I'm hungover, not doing whatever you told me to.
Oh yeah. Especially like if I've been training someone for a long time and I'm like, why is your like score is always drastically different on a Saturday? And like, it's margaritas. We're off on Friday night.
Love it.
So just depends on what your goal is, but no, I don't think you need to cut anything out. I'm a very big like ice cream sweets fanatic, much more than drinking. Like I will never cut out ice cream. That's my thing.
Does your Whoop know? Does it punish you whenever you have too much ice cream?
Probably not the same as alcohol, but I have ice cream like at least a couple times a week. At least. It's like my bedtime snack.
Ooh, right before you go to sleep too. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm just an 80-20. I gotta enjoy my life a little.
I respect that for sure.
I would rather have ice cream than like a 6-pack. It's fine.
Huh. It's a trade-off.
Which I mean, that's not, you can have an aesthetic and have some moderation, but like you can't really be drinking very often if you want a certain physique. I think that's the reality of it.
That's fair. Looks like none of us are going to the IFBB or whatever, the bodybuilding competition.
That was my plan. What are you talking about?
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And where can the fitheads find you and your training online?
MaysaHannawi.dpt is my Instagram, or intheboxpt.com.
Sweet. And are you doing any more webinars coming up?
Yeah, we have one next week on Thursday, and then it's every other Thursday. So the next one is the 13th, I believe.
Okay, sweet.
We posted about it on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And thank you to the fitheads. If you're on listening on Apple Podcasts, go rate and review. That always makes a big difference for us. We appreciate that. And we will see everyone next week.